the corner is an interesting thing, but I felt terrible. My heart just sunk when I realized that she'd been in the corner for 30 minutes. Oh, no. But anyway, enough about child discipline.
Yeah. How bad of parents we are.
Yeah. Yes, the terrible, terrible parents that we are. It happens. But let's talk about flipping homes. You guys, obviously you've broken off into your own company now, so that's kind of an update for people in the industry. You may not have realized that yet. You're still doing the same stuff, but just under your own brand.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So the new company is Hawthorn Albatross LLC. Yeah, definitely doing the same thing, renovating homes to a high standard, trying to keep the integrity up. A lot of investors out there are putting offers in they don't move forward on, or they ask for big price reductions, and really that's sort of a bait and switch that we see often a lot of investors doing, and we do our best not to do that, because we know, again, it's all about integrity and doing what you say. And yeah, I mean, it's just about keeping that integrity up.
And the new company is, like as you said, we're doing the same thing, but even more so with our own brand and making sure that we're putting our own personal touch on things. But the most exciting thing is that we are going to be growing. Our team is already bigger than Apollo's team, and we're just really ready to hit the ground running with Hawthorn and Albatross and put a great quality product out there for home buyers.
So it's a tough business, right? There's all kinds of seminars you can go to, and like, hey, learn how to do this. Here's the magic box.
Yeah.
It's got to be more complicated than that. I mean, just a single individual real estate purchase by itself is a difficult process.
Yeah.
But flipping homes is something I think everyone kind of dreams about. You watch HGTV, you see these guys doing, oh, look, they made 80,000. So easy. They just picked out countertops.
Yeah.
Like, what's the reality of a flip look like, especially in today's market where it's super competitive, margins are lower. How does that look?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely. I started off at PGI Investments, a pretty well-known investment company here in town. Really cut my teeth there and learned the business. And I highly suggest anyone that wants to get into flipping really start out working with an experienced investor, learn from them. Because if you just go out and I'm going to put an offer on the MLS and submit, I mean, it's not always going to turn out well. So yeah, I mean, and then you got to get a good contractor to do the renovation, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, and then really understanding what you can resell the house for, because that's the third component. What you can resell it for, what it's going to cost to renovate, and that determines what you can pay for it. But if you don't have a good idea what you can sell it for and what you're going to renovate it for, how do you know what you're going to offer? So there's a lot that goes into it, and like Kristina mentioned, having the right team. We have 8 employees now, which we
10
can't
actually, including us.
Yeah, 10 including
team
us,
of 10.
and we can't do it without them. We did it at first when we were just leaving Apollo and starting this new thing. We had to do it ourselves. We had to keep the overhead low.
Yeah.
But it was a struggle, and we weren't doing well. The renovations were taking
too long.
45 to 60 days. Really, in this business, you need to renovate a home in 3 to 4 weeks, get it back on the market, do a good job, sell it in 1 to 2 weeks on the market, a 30-day escrow. So you're really only holding these homes for 60 to 75 days total.
You have to price them very
competitively.
Yeah. Because things happen while you own the home. So even though it's on the market, you have this great product, sometimes there's theft. So we get appliances stolen sometimes, and the longer a house sits on the market, the longer that can happen. Or we have staging.
It's just exposed to even the elements, the weather. We've had homes where we were supposed to close on day 30, and then it didn't close until day 33, but between day 30 and 33 the rains came and there was a huge flood like last year, and if the buyer doesn't close on time and the house burns down or there's a flood or whatever, it's on us. And so it's really important to turn our inventory that way, we can move on to the next house.
But it's not, I mean, the old days of flipping, I think the idea was, hey, new carpet, new countertops, new cabinets, redo the bathrooms, just kind of more updating. Is the flip game now more about like construction, like figuring out how to rearrange the properties
Yes.
to create more
Yeah.
square footage, and like that's really where the money's at in that.
Yeah,
business,
and
right?
you see a lot of the consumers seeing the HGTV shows where it's the open floor plan, and you have to do that. And
Yeah.
a lot of the white shakers in the white shaker cabinets in the house, a lot of quartz countertops. So if you use granite, that's sort of outdated now, or darker cabinets are outdated. And even though there's a really low inventory on the market right now, and you'd say, okay, well that means it's a seller's market. You can do whatever to the house. You can just put the paint and carpet in. It's not the case. I mean, because values are high, so it's not like, well, I'm going to put out a really poor product and then ask, you know, a high price. It's not going to happen. So even though interest rates are low, it's cheap to borrow. Still, we're sort of at the what I would call the top of the market. So you have to put a good product out. You have to have a good floor plan design. Whenever we come across a house with one bathroom in it, we're doing whatever we can to fit a second bathroom in that floor plan, because you know, nowadays, who wants only one bath in their house?
And if I can brag for just a minute, Jim, I call him like the floor plan guru, because he has a really good spatial intelligence. So
it's the only intelligence.
that's the only intelligence. No, that's not true. But he, I would say, is very, very bright in that area. That part of his brain just lights up when he walks into a home. He can walk into a home and he sees, you know, it might be all boxed in, it might look like a little rat maze, but he can see where he's going to add that second bathroom, or where he's going to knock out a wall and create more living space, or where he's going to add the third bedroom, and in ways that I've been doing this with him for a long time now as well, and I still don't have that skill. And I know that it's really easy to go into a house and say, okay, I'm going to put, like you said, new paint, carpet, and kitchen, but sometimes the real value is that you add is when you can change the floor plan into something more desirable for today's market. So that's what I feel, you know, Jim, why he is so successful, because he can just walk into a house and he has a vision and he can execute it really well, and we have the team to do it now. So
yeah, and that goes back to just what we were talking about before with, you know, if you want to get into investing and flipping homes, you really need to work with an experienced investor. Maybe if you're just interning with them, to really see a number of houses from the start to the finish, because you look at this floor plan. That's the way I learned it, was just being a part of a number of houses. And then after a while, you're going into a neighborhood and you're saying, I've already seen this floor plan, and we take this wall out, we add the bathroom here, we put the beam up here. So it's just you get the experience under your belt, and everything becomes more natural.
What do you guys think about the market right now? You mentioned earlier that might be at the top. Your words, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does that play into the whole, strategy of, running your own flipping company?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be more sensitive to that maybe than anyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really are paying attention to the inventory. And so if we see inventory spike up, we're going to get a little worried. We're maybe going to put when we put offers in on homes, we're going to leave for a larger spread. Because I think if inventory goes up, we should see values level off or perhaps come down a little bit, because then the buyers have more choices. But as it stands right now, it's almost like a little bit of a gridlock, because interest rates are so low and buyers have a lot of buying power. But at the same time, inventory is low, and if you are potentially wanting to sell a home, unless you're in some sort of financial distress, or maybe you're leaving the area or something, you don't necessarily want to sell right now, because then you're going to have to buy into a high market. So, but at the same time, interest rates are so low, and there's not a lot to choose from out there. So it's like this, there's opposing forces on the real estate economy right now, and it's propping values up. But yeah, we have to be. I think that key factor is the inventory. And if inventory goes up, I think only naturally.
Yeah, and we just always we're always watching the media and reading as much as we can and trying to keep a pulse on things, because we are exposing ourselves to a lot of risk in this industry, but at the same time, it's what we love doing. So we just sort of keep moving forward, and we try to keep our processes and our finances as in play as well as we can, and hope for the best sometimes. So.
You guys have some interesting things about the way you do things that are different than other people. But what do you say, and we'll get to that in a second, but what do you say to people who might think or might be told, don't ever buy a house that's a flip because those guys cut corners and they do all these things to, they just want to get it to look good, so you'll buy it and then they can move on to the next one. What would you tell someone who thinks that?
Yeah, do your homework. So talk to your agent and look on the tax records. Tell your agent to look on the tax records and see who owns the home. What investor is it, and then go online and look at reviews for that investor. Because there definitely are some that skip corners, right? They're just trying to maximize profit. But when you get a company like ours that's really in it for the long term, and we are a local real estate company, we have a reputation to uphold. The last thing we can do is put out a bad product that buyer's agent is going to see, and when they get calls from their buyers after the close of escrow and the roof's leaking or this is happening, that only makes us look bad, and that agent tells their agent friends, and all of a sudden we have a bad reputation, and then we can't hardly buy homes because no one wants to work with us because we put a bad product out. So it's an integral part of the business to put a good product out there, to stand behind it. Things happen every once in a while. Maybe a roof does leak. 6 months down the road, we go out and fix it. I mean, it's just a standard business practice.
We don't say it, but we almost warranty our work because our contractors, we use licensed general contractors for all our jobs, and so that's really important to us, that we have contractors that we can trust and that we believe are quality contractors. One thing I will say, I definitely think there are a lot of flips out there that you do have to be careful about the quality of the product, what you're getting yourself into. But for any flip that you're buying where the flipper has a website, they're an established company, they've been doing this over and over, they have a lot to lose if they don't disclose things to you, if they don't fix real issues, because our names are on the line. This is our livelihood. So when we fill out disclosures on a home that we're selling, we're going to be honest and upfront with everything, because we have a lot to lose if we don't tell the truth. Now, Joe Schmo homeowner who might sell you something, they may not even know what's going on with their house. They don't really have that much to lose. So in that respect, we're professionals. We do this professionally. So we have, we disclose a lot, and we just want to protect our reputation, as Jim said.
And part of that, as you mentioned, was that you integrate with real estate agents. You don't want a bad reputation with them.
Exactly.
And the way that you work with real estate agents is also a little bit different than maybe some of the other flipping organizations out there. Can you explain how that works? Yeah,
so about 95% of our business comes from the real estate agent community, and we've learned that really they're a great source for those fixer properties. I mean, an agent may get 20 listings in a year, maybe one of them is a big fixer, but what we see is they get that fixer and they put it on the market and they get 20 blind offers really quick, from investors. And but we've built our business by going out and inspecting the home day one, running all of our numbers, putting an offer in, no contingencies. And unfortunately, there's investors out there that don't necessarily do that.
Yeah, we've even had situations. I mean, for the most part, we're very reliable as far as closing on time, being really easygoing as far as an investor to work with. But there are things come up where, let's say something happens with the deal and the escrow date has to be pushed. And if there is any sort of financial burden on the seller and it was our fault, we compensate for that. We never expect the seller to sort of eat any of their losses. We really do care about the person we're buying the house from and making sure that we own up to our promise of being a quick close and a great investor to work with. So
yeah, and another thing we often see is investors, a lot of them have in-house agents that they have list the homes for really low commission. But for us, we've built our business on really supporting the real estate agent community. And when we buy a house, we always relist with that agent that brought us the deal, because we want to support them. We want them to have that extra commission that they wouldn't have got otherwise to maybe go and do some more prospecting and to help them get more business. And we know a certain amount of that business we might have a shot at getting if it's really distressed. but again, we are seeing a lot of attacks to the agent community right now from some of these websites like Zillow and Redfin, and you can go on there as a seller and they'll give you a cash offer through their cash buyers. But that's unfortunate because that's cutting out agents. So we really are supporting the agent community because we know agents do a very good service to buyers and sellers because they're real estate professionals. They'll get the most possible for their seller. They'll represent their buyer. They have a fiduciary obligation. So we want to continue to support the real estate agent
they provide
community.
a really critical service to the community in that respect. And then, and we just want to be as easy to work with and make the process as seamless as possible so that the agent's happy, their client's happy, and it's a good transaction overall.
It's a great deal for the agent. It's a good deal for the seller because you'll be fair with them. Great deal for the agent because they can sell you the home and know that not only will they get another listing, but they'll have a great listing to sell. One that's priced, well, and is tip-top shape. It looks amazing. I mean, that's the best thing you could possibly have.
Yeah, and again, with our model, we don't want to overprice it and sit on it for 3 months. So it's a great product that's priced accordingly, and appropriately, and it'll move fast.
Do you guys think that you leave any money on the table by pricing appropriately, or do you think it all works itself out with the marketplace?
We have discussions about this.
We do. Yeah.
But we definitely leave money on the table, and it is what it is because it's just part of the business model to put a good product out there and to sell it quickly and to get into the next deal. But back to your point of, okay, well, how can this market change quickly and how do you cope with that? Well, we cope with it by not holding on to these houses for 6 or 9 months. We're always aiming to hold on to them for less than 90 days. So if we do start to see inventory tick up or interest rates tick up a little bit, we know we're only 60 days out or so from being able to sell this home. Because you have to stay a lot on your feet in this business.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Crazy thing. I think everyone at some point, including myself, has thought about this. What do I do? Or you saw one, or you maybe had an inside track. I had an inside track on a deal that I just referred to a real estate buddy of mine who buys properties, and he actually bought it and is developing it and all this stuff.
Oh, cool.
And I thought about it. I was right there. I had the inside track on. I could have got it. But you start looking at permits and I mean just the whole rigmarole that's
lot of work
into it. I don't have time for that. That's crazy. In fact, later today on the program, we're going to have a permit guy here. I can't remember if he's from the city or whatever. There's a permit guy coming to say like what you can and can't do and what needs to be permitted and not. A lot of people don't realize this. And that stuff is really like if you have to actually pull permits on something, then it is an extremely long process.
It is.
Like you're not going to be a 90-day turn time.
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're doing is cosmetic remodels. In the cities, the municipalities have done their best to make things easier and a lot of over-the-counter permits. So if you're just doing miscellaneous plumbing and electrical in a house, which might be, you're changing out a kitchen, you're changing out a vanity or a shower in the bathrooms, then that's just miscellaneous, and you don't have to go through the long permit process. But again, that's our business model, is to not take on these homes where we have to put an addition on it or do this and that, where we would have to sit on it for 6 months. So it's just part of the business model of the type of homes you buy and what needs to be, what kind of permits need to be pulled on them.
How many homes do you look at before you buy one on average, do you think?
It's about 25 homes for every one we buy.
Really?
Yeah.
You look at 25?
Yeah.
You don't always physically go out to them, though.
Someone from our team is mostly at each one of those, though. Yeah, we won't go to every single one of them. A deal gets sent over and they're asking $400. We look at it and we say, well,
because it could
we
be
don't
like
even necessarily need
a
to go
$2 million
out
in La Jolla, and even though it's distressed, it's like, well, our model is just not the high dollar stuff. We do more of the.
That'd be on the market a year.
Yeah, exactly.
We encourage real estate agents to send us anything they think might potentially be an investment, because it's okay, because agents sometimes they may undervalue it or overvalue it, and we say, well, let us look at it through our lens, because we may see value in it that maybe even another investor doesn't see. And we know that street, and we know that street has some views, and but this, this street sells for higher than this street. So yeah, we encourage all deals to come in. So it's a lot of sifting through addresses.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I mean, even if you're in that higher price point, if you can price well below, the market with your finished product, it still might go fast.
Yeah.
You might even be, I mean, like your ideal situation would be to be kind of like the mid-flip guy, right? Like you could even sell it to somebody who could then go and sell it and make a little bit of money.
The wholesale
we'll
model.
see that, we call it wholetailing, where maybe we'll clean it up just a little bit and we're going to sell it to an owner that that's maybe going to do some work on it themselves, and so we'll market it that way. And we say, house is clean but still needs a little TLC. We had one in Vista that had 360-degree views, and we looked at it and said, well, we could easily spend over $100,000 on this home and maybe sell it for $650. But what direction do we go in? And it's such a special house. What kind of upgrades do we put in it? It's got the fact that this lot and its views already, that's built in, the value's built in there. Let's sell it for a lot less to someone and make close to the margin we wanted to make on it, and let them do the renovation how they want. And we sold that very quickly. We cleaned it up a little bit, because there was a lot of trash in there. So we cleaned the trash out, we painted the inside, put a clean product there, and just marketed it to someone who wanted to do the renovation themselves.
So many different ways to get it done, huh?
There really are.
Every project is different, right?
Yeah.
Very dynamic industry that you guys are in.
Yeah.
What else should people know, the average person, about buying a flip or just the industry in general?
Well, again, it depends who you are. If you're just buying a flip, just be careful. Do some research on that investor. One thing we didn't mention before is when you're buying, you're going to get an inspection done. But I really encourage buyers to do even more in-depth inspections. Do a plumbing inspection, camera the plumbing. Maybe get your own roofer out there. Your own electrician, do a lot of inspections on the home, because that's going to be your, in some cases your forever home. So spend that money, spend $500 to $1,000 in inspections, because it's well worth it. I mean, someone like us, we sometimes get disclosures from the sellers that we're buying from, and sometimes we don't get disclosures, and we've never lived in the home. So if we don't get disclosures and we've never lived there, we may not know that after you do about 10 to 20 loads of laundry, that line sometimes backs up. So get an inspector out there to go and look at, again, camera each line, really do your inspections on it. Yeah,
and I mean, and there's a happy medium, because really you should do that to any house you buy, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're buying a house that was built in 1940, even though it looks amazing, there's going to be certain things about that house that are just not the same as a house that's built in 2017. So, I mean, you don't want to get so aggressive that the seller flipper, this is their livelihood, this is their business, so they're going to sell to whoever's really going to pay them the most. If you really want the house, you also have to not be too aggressive, because there might be someone right behind you in line that wants the house and is okay with the fact that it was built in 1940 and it doesn't have the most updated pipes, so happy medium. And that goes with any house you buy. You have to give and take.
1940, practically still got the wrapper on it.
Yeah.
Most of the places around the country.
Right.
But you make a good point. What about for buyers out there who might be watching this and maybe they've tried to buy, and can they go direct to you guys, for properties, or do you have inventory that's coming up? Like, I imagine that you have a pipeline of hey, this is a house we just bought, this is coming down the pike. Like, how do people get access to some of that? Because that's gold.
Yeah, buyers and agents just go to either our website or our Facebook.
Yeah, I've had potential buyers message us on Facebook and tell me what they're looking for, and it even gives us. We love it, because we're like, okay, well, we'll go if we have a lot of interest in this neighborhood, we'll go aggressive in that neighborhood looking for houses that might work for that, demographic or that person that's asking. So they can just reach out to us directly anytime.
Yeah, a lot of real estate agents reach out to us and say, I have a buyer looking in Allied Gardens right now, or Claremont. And then we know to take a good look at that area, and when we get an opportunity, maybe we'll go a little bit more aggressive on our offer price for that, because we know we have a potential buyer for it after we renovate it, and there's less risk in it for us. So, yeah, just reach out to us. Yeah.
So we'll tag the Facebook page, obviously, here in this post, and Hawthorn and Albatross. It kind of, sounds like maybe a law firm. What's the story there?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Well, so Hawthorn and Albatross is actually 2 streets here in San Diego. The house that's on the corner of Hawthorn and Albatross is a 1901 Irving Gill gray stone cottage made with like granite rock. My grandparents, well, originally that house was built for the governor's grandson back in 1901, and then my grandparents picked up the house back in the 70s. It was at that time a boarding house, and they were, you know, blue collar people, you know, that's where they came from. So they were the type of people that would renovate the house themselves. So they renovated that house back to its original glory throughout the 70s and 80s, and that was our grandparents' house that we'd go to all the time here in San Diego for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's still owned by the family. And unfortunately, both my grandparents aren't here today, but it's sort of in an ode to them because they were such an integral part of my upbringing. I grew up with, my parents were divorced, but my grandparents were sort of amicable with both sides, my mom and my dad, and they watched us all the time. And so I just want that legacy to continue of people that work hard and put their time and blood, sweat, and tears into something, into their home, into their work, into their career, into their family. I think that that's like the American dream, and I want that to continue for us, where we continue to put our hard work into something and build the company that will sustain itself throughout the generations. I really want this company to be around in 100 years. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is
yeah, and
that's
amazing. She mentioned that house is built of granite rock, so that house isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope, it's on a good foundation. So.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think you put a lot of thought into the name of the organization. You want it to be around for 100 years, and that shows. That's also important for people who want to work with you.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's people who are buying your houses, looking you up because they're doing the research you've told them to do, or people in the real estate community who want to, work with an investor that they know is going to create a good product and help them out on the other side. So great work that you guys are doing. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Tremendous stuff. You are now smarter than everyone else because you're watching Smarter San Diego on Facebook Live. We'll be back soon.